In this build series, I'll be creating a diorama for the beautifully designed Lego Medieval Blacksmith set. This is the first episode, so I started things off with a terrain build video. I thought this set really deserved a dedicated diorama, so I decided to use 4 48x48 grey base plates for this build. This will give me plenty of room for landscaping and adding other buildings to complement the scenery, without being too large and making the blacksmith look like just another building amongst many other buildings. I wanted the blacksmith to sit prominently on this diorama, so I created a 6-brick tall hill and framed the hill with a small river. This will help create separation for the blacksmith from the other buildings and increase its prominence. The idea here is that this location is somewhere on the edge of a village or a town. I think this makes sense since blacksmiths create a lot of black soot, so the villagers probably don't want to have one in the middle of town. Farms are located on the edge of towns as well, so having a blacksmith nearby would be useful for tooling and repairs. I used dark tan as a base color for the lower ground to convey a more damp and wet look near the river. For the higher ground, I used medium nougat as a base color for a drier looking landscape. Next, I worked on the transition zone between the two elevations and mixed the two colors for this area. This area will be the path linking the upper and lower grounds. The rock panels here will act as structural support for the cliff face that I will build later. Having completed the core shaping of the terrain, I proceeded to work on the contours of the landscape starting here at the riverside. I started here since the river is the lowest layer of the terrain. And I'll gradually work my way up the layers until I reach the top of the hill. Here you can begin to see the mixing of olive green into the terrain for a more damp look. I wanted to complete the path up the hill first before working on the rock faces, since the contouring work will be layered on top of the path, as you can see with the wedge plates placed on top of the tiles. This is because a path is usually worn into the ground. You can also see that for the path below I used dark bluish grey and olive green tiles and gradually transitioned to light bluish grey and medium nougat up top, since the pebbles and stones up here have less moisture compared to the damp stones near the river. Next, I worked on the cliff face. To avoid the hairy vertical lines of using just normal slopes, I used snot bricks on some of the more prominent wedge slopes to create irregular shapings on top of the normal slopes. I think this creates a more natural look to the cliff face. For the other side of the hill, I had room to build a gradual hillside, but still to avoid the hairy vertical lines, I mixed wedge plates and wedge slopes for a more random, natural shaping, transitioning from the olive greens near the river to the medium nougats further away. Having completed the terrain work below, I proceeded to completing the path towards the blacksmith. I placed the blacksmith building off-grid using a turntable piece underneath and tiling the edges. This is to avoid giving the diorama a squared and rigid look. Lastly, before placing the minifigures, I completed the remaining terrain work. The sand green patch you see here will later be changed to reddish brown, since I think it's better to do a small carrot and pumpkin field here instead of a patch of shrubbery. The scene here is some Black Falcon soldiers coming from town to purchase weapons and armor. We also have some workers forging weapons and family members tending to the small field for some homegrown food. My initial idea for the land opposite the river is to build a livestock farm, which is what I'll be working on next week. After that, I will build a bridge to link the two sides of the river, and create the edge of a forest where the lady is currently on a hunt for some game, as well as other botanical detailing work such as the carrot and pumpkin field, and patches of shrubbery throughout the diorama. I think this will be a 3-week build in total, so there should be 2 more episodes for this build series. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.